So we left off talking about the full spectrum of electromagnetic light, all of light. So in astronomy, one of the ways that we use the EM spectrum to determine what stars are made of, what galaxies are made of, what gas clouds are made of, is by looking at the atomic spectrum of light. So if we take light and we parse out the light into its signature wavelengths, or its fingerprint, we're able to determine what the source of the light is. So a chemical substance heated up, so in this image in terms of a flame, or if we sent electricity through it, through a tube, and we sent that light through a narrow slit and then through a prism, or through a diffraction grating or a spectrometer, we would break the light up into its signature spectrum. So in this case, it's an emission spectrum, which means that the light is emitting the light, meaning that the gas is heated up. So the elements of the periodic table each have a signature spectrum. This is like a fingerprint. Humans have our individualistic fingerprints, while elements have the same thing. And it's all based on how the electrons move within the element. So helium, for example, on the top here, notice it has 2 reds, 3 blues, and 2 purples. That's the signature fingerprint of helium. And hydrogen has its own signature fingerprint as well. So to understand how a spectrum is produced, we need to understand a little bit about the basic structure of matter. So all matter is made up of atoms and molecules. So this is a brief history of the atomic model. So our current view, okay, is listed down here. So in 1913, we had the Bohr model of the atom. So at first, we really thought it was just a circular entity of some sort that made up of all matter, meaning you, me, the table you're sitting at, the computer you're looking at. Later we found out that no, indeed there's charges inside the atom, positive and negative charges. And then later we discovered from Rutherford that most of this charge exists in the nucleus, at the center of the atom. The Bohr model in 1913 is one of the most recognized models of the atom, and it's one that really is useful in astronomy to help understand how electrons move. But we have recently found that that's still not quite right. But how the Bohr model works is that we have the electron's nucleus, the center, composed of protons and neutrons, being surrounded by electrons which surround the nucleus at distinct energy levels, or orbits. Now, what we have found out is that the orbits don't look like this planetary model like you see in the image, but instead it's based on quantum mechanical probability. So the electrons have a probabilistic state. And so they really are more like an electron cloud rather than in distinct orbits like you're seeing in the Bohr model, the planetary model. But for astronomy, we're going to use the planetary model. Just know that that's not the most accurate model of the atom. Instead, it's really the electron cloud with the nucleus at the center and the electrons existing at probabilistic positions all around the nucleus. So the basic structure is the nucleus composed of protons and neutrons, and electrons moving between energy states within the atom. So these energy states are those levels within the Bohr state. So an electron can move between these states because of quantum. Okay, light is quantized. So energy is quantized in terms of light, and electrons can move energy levels by absorbing and emitting a discrete amount of energy. And we call that discrete amount of energy a photon. And so electrons can move to higher energy levels within the atom by receiving the exact amount of energy it would take to jump to a higher energy level. And this is only really able to be done because of the dual nature of light. Okay, the fact that we talked about light can exist as both a wave and a particle. So the particle nature looks like, some kind of little balls down here. These are photons. But we've been talking about light so far in the EM spectrum as traveling like a wave. Well, a photon of light contains a discrete amount of energy equal to the smallest known distance that we know of, called the Planck's constant, times the frequency of light. So what does this tell us? It tells us that the higher frequency, the greater the energy of that photon. But that photon can also move like a wave. It's called the wave-particle duality. So a simplistic idea to think about this is like water acting like a light. Okay, so the wave nature of light would be like energy flowing from a hose. Okay, it's continuous flow of energy. But the quantum view of light, these discrete packets, the photon view of light, would be like dumping a bucket of water. So the bucket of water is a packet of energy, and that's a photon. So light acts as both the hose and the bucket of water. So I put this little comic on here just to be silly, but also to give you a good visualization of kind of how I imagine the electron and having both photon and wave properties. So I'll give you a second to read it. Okay, so moving along these energy levels. So now this is kind of akin to the Bohr model of the atom. So the nucleus in the center, and these are those energy levels we were talking about that the electron can move around. Now remember that they are actually an electron cloud, but this is an easy way to think of it. So electrons like to exist in a low energy state. The ground state is the lowest energy state that an electron can exist in. Now, where the electron moves in terms of whether it exists at a high state and wants to move to a higher one or a low state to a next higher one depends on the element that it's made out of. So the general idea is that an energy level is kind of like stairs. So an electron sits on a stair and it can want to move up to a higher energy level. The only way it can do that is by gaining energy. So imagine it's also like drinking caffeine. You want to be excited and be able to run up the stairs, right? But that's maybe hard without some caffeine. So you drink some caffeine, you take in some energy. Now you have the energy to jump up the stairs. But eventually you get tired and you want to decaffeinate a bit and you would jump down an energy level. Okay, so the same thing is happening to the electron. But in this case, the energy is not caffeine, it's light. It absorbs photons, but eventually it re-emits those photons because it doesn't like to be in that excited state for too long. Just like if you have too much caffeine and you get all shaky, it's not a comfortable state for the electron. Just like it's not a comfortable state to be too highly caffeinated. So the electron eventually releases its photon and jumps back down to a lower energy level. And when it does this, it releases that photon. We see that photon as an emission spectral line. Okay, so here's a little bit better example of what's happening. So you have an electron around the hydrogen atom sitting at the first energy level. Well, a photon comes in, okay, energy, right, light. The electron absorbs that photon and jumps to the energy level corresponding to that amount of energy. Now, eventually, the photon is released and the electron de-excites itself to a lower energy level. And the amount of energy that's emitted is a discrete amount. But it emits that photon in the form of a wave, and we see that as a spectral line. So there are several different spectral lines depending on the position of the electron and where it jumps. So we have the Lyman series in ultraviolet, the Balmer series in visible and ultraviolet, and the Paschkin series in infrared. Okay, so just one more visualization. So the light coming in, the photon, absorbed by the electron, allowing the electron to jump to a higher energy level. The electron releasing that photon, jumping down an energy level, and we see that as light. So the atoms absorb and emit different photons, and it depends on the differences between the energy levels. And the spectrum is what's produced by those photons being emitted by the atom. And so those are the fingerprint signatures of the spectrum of different elements. So here's the signature of hydrogen, mercury, and neon. Now, we've been talking about emission spectra, meaning that the electron is emitting the light. Now, sometimes if you had a cool gas, okay, the electrons would absorb that light, and we would see that light as an absorption line, which is these dark lines on the bottom of the slide. So we have emission lines on the top and absorption lines on the bottom. So to summarize, we have what we call Kirchhoff's laws. So a continuous spectrum made from any kind of hot, opaque body, which we call a perfect black body, in this case like an incandescent light bulb or our sun, and we'll talk about black body radiation in the next video. All you'll get is a complete spectrum of colors without any spectral lines, okay, the continuous spectrum. But if we have a hot, transparent gas producing emission lines, we see those very bright spectral lines against a dark background. But if we had the opaque black body, the full rainbow, sitting behind a cool gas, that cool gas would absorb the energy coming from the continuous spectrum, And so you'd see the continuous spectrum in the background, and then the absorption lines from the cool gas cloud where the electrons are absorbing those photons from the continuous line. So you'd see these dark bands from the continuous spectrum called absorption lines. Okay, so here's just another example showing you like the black body, like an incandescent light bulb or a star, and then what type of spectral lines you would see. So these spectral lines are the fingerprints of that element. So what's cool about using spectral lines in astronomy is we're also able to use spectral lines to determine whether an object is moving away from us or towards us. So we call the Doppler effect, that in sound, when an object moves towards us, the sound waves are compressed and we hear a higher frequency, like of an ambulance. As the ambulance moves away from us, those sound waves are stretched out and we hear a lower pitch. Well, the same thing happens with light. We see light being compressed as being shifted more towards the blue, and light being spread out as being more shifted to the red. Okay, so here we go. So a light source moving towards the woman on the left is going to be compressed, and she would see that light as blue light because the wavelength is getting shorter and the frequency higher. So we see galaxies moving towards and away from us, or stars moving towards and away from us, by looking at how the spectral lines of elements within those galaxies are shifted, either red shift or blue shift. Red shift would be moving away from us. Blue shift would be moving towards us because those wavelengths are being compressed. So blue, higher frequency, or stretched out, red, lower frequency. Okay, so here's just a summary. So you have your continuous spectrum, your absorption spectrums, and your emission spectrum. So these lines above it are the lines of what you would actually see in astronomy. Okay, these are lines of like a star or some kind of gas cloud. This would be what we call the black body curve of a star. Okay, continuous spectrum. If we saw the continuous spectrum but certain lines were taken out, those would be the absorption lines. That's how we would see the actual spectrum in astronomy. And then emission lines would be the bright peaks where the light comes at us. So here's the emission spectrum of our sun. So our sun is a black body, and we'll explain what that means in the next video. But the sun's light looks like this black body curve here with absorption lines in it. So it emits at the full continuous spectrum, but stars have an atmosphere around them of cooler gas. So that gas on the atmosphere of the sun is absorbing some of the photons coming from the continuous spectrum of the center of the star. So the stellar spectrum that we see from our sun is a continuous spectrum, the full rainbow, with these dark lines in it. And those are the absorption lines of the atmosphere around the sun. And this is what you would see in terms of the actual image of the star. And these are the absorption lines, these dips coming from our sun. Okay, I'm going to stop here and we'll start here on the next video.